Vilsack, thanks for being here today. Agriculture is Montana's #1 industry. It's $5 billion a year economy for us. Last year, I was pleased to be able to work with the Montana grain growers and other stakeholders to reform and reauthorize the Grain Standards Act to ensure that Montana farmers are protected from disruptions in federally mandated grain inspections like what happened at the Port of Vancouver. I remember having literally farmers jumping off of a combine in the middle of harvest, running to Great Falls to meet me there, talk about the crisis we had, and I was glad to see we got it resolved, and I look forward to ensuring this new law is implemented effectively moving forward so we can prevent that crisis from happening again. But thank you for your help on that. I want to shift gears and talk about brucellosis. I live about an hour north of Yellowstone National Park, went to kindergarten through college there in Bozeman. As you know, there's a significant bison herd within Yellowstone National Park and the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. My question is, how is your department, and APHIS in particular, coordinating and cooperating with state agencies in Montana like the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks of Montana and the Department of Livestock on disease management efforts, particularly regarding brucellosis in the greater Yellowstone area?
Well, a number of years ago, we entered into an arrangement with the folks at Yellowstone, the state officials, and others to address this. I can get you more information, Senator, on the success of that, but I think we were able to isolate and provide a much better environment relative to the bison and other animals. So I'd be happy to get you more detail about that, but I know that we have been working collaboratively with folks on this.
And speaking of collaboration, and I'm going to throw something out there, something to consider. In prior years, there was extensive collaborative effort. I think actually we had better communication because there's a lot of moving parts here, certainly between state agencies, federal agencies, and private groups. It was called the Greater Yellowstone Interagency Brucellosis Committee. It brought together a diverse group of stakeholders, including representatives from Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, obviously, this crosses borders, as well as the USDA and the Interior. The working group improved communication. It furthered efforts to provide sound science surrounding wildlife and disease management throughout the greater Yellowstone area. Unfortunately, this effort lapsed in 2006, so 10 years ago, and no similar working group has filled that void. I've heard concerns, talking to farmers, ranchers, and stakeholders, that the result has been a deterioration in communication between the agencies, both federal, state, as well as private groups regarding disease management and the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. So my question is, would the USDA be supportive of reestablishing that Greater Yellowstone Interagency Brucellosis Committee, or perhaps something similar?
Senator, I appreciate you bringing this up. My understanding was that we were in the process of a focused collaborative effort, but if that's not the case, then I'll certainly go back and ask our team to figure out a way in which we can be more collaborative, if it's a working group or whatever it is. We have been trying to stress collaboration with the local folks at every level, so if that's not happening, we need to make it happen.
I appreciate it. That'd be a outcome from this hearing. We could certainly have that communication and bring that concern and try to bring those groups together again. The word from back home was that it really was valuable. I want to shift gears now and talk a bit about what's going on in the area of GMOs and biotech. Last weekend, you were quoted at a commodity conference when referring to GMOs, stating, "I'm here to unequivocally say they are safe to consumers." With that in mind, and notwithstanding marketing efforts or the hurdles of getting legislation through Congress, it's a topic of discussion here as we sit here today. Are there any safety concerns, or is there any sound scientific research that would warrant the mandatory labeling of GMOs?
No, but that's not obviously the issue. The issue is that folks in states have made decisions based on referendums and state legislators to create labeling systems that are applicable within state borders. And that creates a circumstance and situation, as you know, where we're going to have a hodgepodge and chaotic circumstance where individual states and or individual companies are going to make their own decision about what they're going to put on the package. It's going to create confusion. It's going to create additional expense. It may limit access to food, or it may increase the cost of food. It doesn't have to be. And there is a way, in my view, where you can respect a consumer's right to know, if they have an interest in knowing, the production process by which their food was been produced, but doing it in a way that doesn't convey the wrong impression about the safety of the food.
And so I guess getting this issue of mandatory versus voluntary, I mean, I think to be clear, a decision to implement mandatory labeling then would not be based on safety concerns or sound science, but on other factors?
It would be based on balancing the desire on the part of a growing amount of consumers to want to know. And at the end of the day, companies that are in the business of selling to consumers, obviously the customer's always right kind of thing, with doing it in a way that doesn't send the wrong message about the safety. In the past, we have put something on the package either to talk about caloric content or nutrition or a known risk. That's not what this is about, which is why I've suggested the establishment of a smart label process, which would essentially give consumers who are interested information that they're interested in, but not in a way that conveys a false impression about the safety of the product.
I think we agree it's critical we address this issue in a timely manner, given what's going on in Vermont. And I have no issue with voluntary programs that meet market demands or consumer preferences. That being said, I do believe the USDA's priority should be with making determinations based on sound science regarding the safety of biotech products within its jurisdiction, not on marketing or mandatory labeling efforts that really have no bearing on food safety or plant pest risk.
Well, I'm trying to avoid a chaotic circumstance, Senator, and I'm certainly hopeful that there are at least 60 of you that feel the same way I do.
All right.